let's jump right into it in that regard because I think that was probably one of the most interesting things there is a reaction to that exact trade off. There is was the Kings going to take Jaden Ivey? Ended up falling to the Pistons, which I think is one of the craziest picks of this draft. But I think you look at a guy like Keegan Murray as a guy who knows basketball. You see him as a really, really solid player. But I feel like that led to the Pistons getting the steal of the draft. Like they absolutely stole on Jaden Ivey. Like I don't know. I feel like you take the best player available in that situation if you're the Kings, and you figure it out. I mean, they want to make the playoffs, but screw it. So I don't know. Did you? If you look
They're
forward
scared
like
to
10
they're
years from
scared to
now,
pick another guard.
I mean, they just traded away Halliburton for sure. But I guess when you look at these picks and you look 10 years from now and you boil it down to, okay, which was the better player? I think we're probably going to look back and see that as a pretty terrible pick.
So what are you doing? Like the most likely to succeed superlative?
Like we haven't gotten to superlatives yet, but I guess who was the steal of the draft? And I think in this situation, I'm saying Jaden Ivey, and I think the Kings got stolen from. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jaden Ivey was a great steal. To get him at, I think if you asked the Pistons a week ago, do you think Jaden Ivey's going to be there? They would have laughed.
Yeah.
A lot of people had him maybe even going in the top 3. So yeah, I would say the same for them. I think what Indianapolis did with Mathurin at 6, I liked that a lot. And I think they're going to be I heard, who was it? Somebody say they might be a league pass team. Like you might get league pass just to make sure you keep an eye on the Pacers because they might be a decent team to watch.
That'd be interesting. I'm not sure what they're doing there yet. I mean, they have a lot of moves that are probably going to be made in free agency, and maybe Brogdon's gone, maybe Turner's gone, but Halliburton and Mathurin, that'll be interesting. I want to go back real quick to Ivey and Murray. Like when you look at these two guys and their base skill set and the potential that they've shown, what is the chasm between those two players like 5 years from now? For you, what do you think as a, and then we're going to have you, I think you're the good pH test for whether or not people are overreacting on like, maybe Keegan Murray is going to be a really good player. And so Ivey, and maybe it's just a difference. Like you got a top 50 guy versus a top 40, 30 guy, and maybe everyone's happy.
Yeah. Again, like we said, there's so many other things in context to think about too. Like, do the Kings do this because they're worried about Fox eventually wanting to leave and to get him another big to play with, versus another ball dominant guard? Or is it that they want somebody to pair with Sabonis so that they're able to control the boards and be able to do that? I guess the thing would be is, when you're looking at the difference between the two of them and how we're going to be able to evaluate them a few years from now, that's such a good question. That's going to be so hard because the Pistons, I think, are on the up and up. All right. And Jaden Ivey's, I think either one of them would have been great to plug in and to continue to help them build and to go. And the Kings, it's just like, what are you doing here? It seems like it's been that way for quite some time.
Yes.
So it's tough to be like, okay, is it going to be, which gets their team closer to playoff contention? Because so much of that is out of their control. I guess at least if you're Murray, at least so much of it's out of his control. Maybe it's all-star games. Maybe it's, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think both guys have been drafted to places where they will have ample opportunity to grow in a role that they should be good at for sure. I just think that when we look back on it, Keegan Murray will be he'll be a great replacement for Harrison Barnes, and Jaden Ivey will be the second star to a Pistons team that should be a perennial contender in 5 to 10 years over the next 8 years.
The way you look at it now, it's like the pick right now, you're saying Keegan Murray was the right pick for Sacramento because there's a better chance that he can come right in and have a positive impact, and they are desperate, obviously, to make the playoffs.
That's not the playoffs. That's the
play-in.
play-in.
Okay, whatever. Well, they probably might make that, but they're desperate to make the playoffs.
Maybe.
But and then and Ivy might take a couple more years to really develop. Then we look at it in maybe 5 years and we're looking back and thinking, oh my God, I can't believe they didn't take Ivy. But at this very moment, the situation Sacramento is in, Keegan Murray probably was the right pick for them ultimately.
So that you all right? So you co-sign that. You co-sign that was the right pick for. All right. So for the goal at hand, and this is where I mean, Mike, you're talking context. Like they have a mandate to make the playoffs. So who's gonna help them make the playoffs first? Obviously, the answer is Keegan Murray. But without that mandate, if you're just thinking as a GM, you're just thinking forward thinking, it's crazy. But I guess I do want to get through some of these superlatives stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, like you said, the ceiling is higher on Ivy, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with Murray, you've seen this massive growth where he was coming off I think he was coming off the bench last year, the year before. And now, he had an amazing Big Ten year. But it wasn't as though Ivy was a slouch. And I believe Ivy's coming out, right away. So, like as you said, I think Ivy has the higher ceiling, but yeah, Murray, I agree. It's a good pick. It's a good pick. It's a good fit.
Thanks for watching Coast to Coast on YouTube. For full episodes, check out the show wherever you get your podcasts. And for all the best hot takes, subscribe to the Coast to Coast YouTube channel below.